Let's go to some audience questions. So, sir, why don't you start off? If we can keep the questions fairly brief and in the form of a question, that would be great, because we have several we want to get through in only 15 minutes. So, yes, sir.
Mr. Rickman, you have a very sort of iconic and distinctive voice, and there's a lot of actors who have that sort of feature have found themselves always doing very similar types of... How have you avoided being typecast despite having this sort of iconic status? You know, that's Alan Rickman's voice.
Well, it's down to who you are and what you want to do and what you want to spend your life doing and what's going to make you interested. And then it's about what scripts come to you, because you're not in control of that particularly. And then it's absolutely about what you say yes and no to. So I have said no to a lot of things, and it just so happens that I'm just as happy doing some small project like Snowcake, although to me that's not small, that you have to really fight hard to give life to. So it's about who you are as a person and the choices you make rather than, or the no's you say rather than the yeses. What keeps you interested? It changes all the time. The idea of typecasting is another hammer and nails. And I suppose I just resist that.
Thank you. Yes.
A friend of mine saw you on Broadway in Les Liaisons Dangereuses, and he said...
A very old friend.
Yeah, very old friend. But he always said he led with his groin. And I'm wondering if you use that part of the body kinetically very frequently.
Well, let's just remember it was 25 years ago. And if we're talking about equipment, the groin was more part of the equipment, or it was more relevant then. I think that you use all of you, and that man was very governed by his groin. So, yes, I would agree with that. And also, I think, I don't know where you lead from as an actor. It's going back to what we were saying about here's my head, here's my body. And people talk about acting being very you have to be centered. And if I think about what does that mean, it's somewhere here. Now, what is that? Is that your head? Is it your heart? Is it your groin? Is it your soul? It's something unnameable, but it's something you must engage. Otherwise, there's no connection.
Thank you. Yes?
Going back to the uniqueness sound of your voice, I don't think I'll ever think of the C word again after hearing how you said it in seminar. So I'm wondering, is there a story, did you have any kind of trepidations about saying the word, and did you have conversation with the director on how you would deliver it?
I don't think I say the C word.
In seminar.
The which? Oh, the P word, sorry. I was going to say, I think I'd remember saying the C word, but the P word, okay. No, I don't care. If I believe in the story and I think it's got something to say, I don't think one will edit out content. That would that's a really bad C word, which is censor. No. I mean, I will not do a play or a film which promotes right-wing causes. But that's about as far as it goes, I think.
Thank you. Yes?
Mr. Rickman, you've worked with an array of actors on the film and stage. Is there someone you admire who you haven't worked with, who you'd like to?
Yeah, round up the usual suspects. there are many great actors, and certainly great film actors, particularly in this country, and without naming names, they'll all be pretty obvious, that I haven't worked with and would love to. This country's full of fantastic actors.
Thanks. Yep.
Hello, Mr. Rickman. It's a pleasure. Obviously, you've been in the acting business for a very long time, and you've done an array of different things with different special effects, like especially from the Harry Potter films to like theater where there's less special effects. I was wondering, like, how is the special effects for you, and do you prefer acting with more or less special effects?
Well, you don't know about them at the time. They, you know, the whole point about them is that you see them eventually. It's a kind of odd experience to be on a set that isn't a set, and that's got a load of blue screens and red dots.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you know, you're playing a scene in front of a camera, and what you see is us in a world, whether it's a real one that's been built or one that's been made in a computer. What we're staring at is a film crew of about 100 people with clipboards and stopwatches and directors with frustrated faces. So our reality is not yours anyway. In a way, it's sort of freeing to set foot on a stage and you're in complete control, theoretically.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
One of my most delicious film-going memories is hearing you say, "cut his heart out with a spoon." One of my favorite lines. But what I'd like to ask you about is Truly, Madly, Deeply. How did you come to do it, and how does that live for you in your memory?
It's a very, very special memory because, of course, it was Anthony Minghella's first film, and if I remember anything that I certainly used when I came to direct a film, was on the very first day of filming, he turned to the actors and the crew and he just said, "I have one word, help." And it was special too because Juliet Stevenson and I had done a lot of work together in the theatre. And so I was talking earlier about, you know, often the lack of process in film and a lack of rehearsal time. Well, Anthony was very much a theatre playwright before he did that film, and so we had a lot of rehearsal, and we were very prepared. And a huge amount of trust. So I learned a lot about if you can create the circumstances, they are ideal ones. Ask for rehearsal time and make sure that trust is there in spades.
Thank you very much for asking about that film. It was in contention with Sense and Sensibility. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Great.
Thanks.
Yes?
Mr. Rickman, you've given advice for acting for young students, but I was wondering if you had any advice for directing and shifting between film directing and then stage directing.
Well, directing for film is a mystery to me because how one ever arrives at the first day with a crew and a script and the money to do it is increasingly the biggest game of all. Tenacity and the big advantage to me is that you don't have to show up looking good at 6 o'clock in the morning as a director. Advice, I really don't know. You've just got to, it's got to be something you really, really want to, the story you really want to tell, because you're going to be with it for a year, even from the time you start. And then you're in the editing room. And then you're going through the whole publicity circus. So you've got to have a really strong sense of yourself as a team leader, and then as somebody who is going to live with that story for that length of time, that it's going to feed you. Theatre is a, you know, A bad director is the one who, in the theatre, who is there through the 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks of rehearsal, and then you never see them again. They exist because they're on to the next project. A good director is one that stays in touch and knows that, as Pat was saying, it's going to change. And a good director should hope that that will happen and will let you go, but also know to rein you back in.
Thank you very much.
Great question. Where do you get your T-shirt?
eBay.
Got Rickman. Very nice. Yes.
You've made all of us laugh and cry, sit on the edge of our seats in anticipation, and fall in love. Because of all the different characters that you've played, is there something, either stage or screen, that you found is probably your largest challenge when it comes to playing different characters?
You know, every job you do, you put all of yourself into. So I can't really divide them up. You have to figure out which bit of yourself is going to be needed for this, which pieces of the equipment, and then you have to get out the sharpening blades, and it's an impossible question to answer because every one of them is a piece of my life. You know, whether it's 6 months of doing a play is a long time. 5 weeks of shooting a film is still 5 weeks of your life with a bunch of people who you become very close to, and they were complete strangers. It's a weird existence. Yeah, it's all part of this thing that will this afternoon, horrifically, be doing it again.
Fantastic. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
You are the master of subtlety. We are on the edge of our seats just waiting for the next little eyebrow raise, the next syllable. You do so much with so little. And I just want to know, sorry, I mean with the little gestures and the syllables, like equally and so forth. So, what's your inspiration? You say it's about, listening and responding, but it's got, you've got to savor it yourself, and you've got to get it from somewhere. Where does it come from?
Well, I mean, every actor that appears on film or on stage in leading roles and has some kind of reputation, every one of them has something that's uniquely them. You know, we could all, if Meryl Streep was sitting here now, you'd say, how the hell do you do that? And I look at clips of her being Margaret Thatcher, I think, how? Does she breathe it in? It's who you are. It's what you do, and you can't take any credit for it. All you have is a responsibility to it. And the same is true of anybody that takes what they do to some level of expertise. You have to work at it, keep working at it, challenge yourself, put yourself at the service of the writer. The writing is always the most important thing. You have to just hand yourself over to that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yes.
Hello, Mr. Rickman. I have a question. What was your favorite moment on the set of Harry Potter?
Say that again, sorry?
Your favorite moment while on the set of Harry Potter?
Favorite moment?
Well, probably ones that I can't possibly share with you.
I know some of them.
Because they would all be about disgraceful behavior between grown adults who should know better.
Yes, I know about those. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Yes.
Hey. Thanks for everything you do. There are so many interviews and sometimes you hear the same questions over and over, and that hasn't happened today for the most part. But are there any questions that you're longing to answer that you haven't been asked?
No. I'd have my T-shirt would just say "less is more" on every level.
Thank you.
That's a good question. I'm going to use that one. Yes.
Hi. Many actors say they don't like to watch themselves on film, so I was just wondering how it felt to watch yourself act as well as sing in Sweeney Todd.
No, I can't bear it. I guess you're forced to watch things at premieres, and so I've seen those bits and pieces, but it's not a hobby of mine to watch myself at all, ever. And in fact, I was asked if they could show a clip from Seminar, and I absolutely had to say no, because, I'm still doing it, and I would not want to be watching that before I then have to do it today. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is all the time that we have. I want to thank Alan Rickman for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming out. Thanks so much.